wrap and turn, and garter stitch. Okay, what we have here is a garter stitch swatch. It's just knit every row, and as you can see, I have a marker here that already identifies a wrap stitch. So let's look at that. You can see that there's 2 pieces of yarn around this stitch, 1 and 2. Now if you look at the stitch next to it, it looks remarkably different because there's only 1. When you wrap and garter stitch, it pushes that bump down a little, so you'll be able to see your wrap. And again, that's what we use the markers for as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to wrap and turn, and also pick up the wraps when you're working in garter stitch. So let's get started. I'm going to wrap the 3rd stitch from the marker here. So I'm going to knit to this stitch and wrap this stitch. Alright, now in order to mark our wrapped stitches for pickup later, I'm going to place a ring marker right before my wrapped stitch. Now what we want to do to wrap the next stitch is bring our yarn in front of the needle, slip that next stitch as if to purl onto the right hand needle, take our yarn back behind the right hand needle and return that stitch back to the left hand needle. So now we've effectively put a wrap around that stitch. Then we're going to turn our work, slide our marker, move our yarn back because we're knitting garter stitch, and knit back to the beginning of the row. Now if you're following a pattern, it's going to tell you how many to knit back and where to place your wrap and turns. And we'll turn our work. Now, you're going to start to notice something take place. The height of our knitting is going to be changing on one end because we're knitting more stitches here than here, and that'll become more evident as we put in our next 2 wrap stitches. Again, we're going to wrap the 3rd stitch from the marker, which is this stitch here. So when we knit to here, we'll place our marker. Alright, it's 3 stitches before the marker. Place another ring marker on our right needle. Bring the yarn to the front. Slip the next stitch as if to purl from the left needle to the right needle. Move the yarn back and return that stitch back to the left hand needle. Turn the work. Now since we're doing garter stitch and we're knitting every row, we need to return the yarn back to the position for knitting. Slide our marker and knit back to the beginning of the row. And you can see it's even more pronounced after this one. So we're going to do this one more time. Wrapping this stitch here. So we're down to just knitting 3 stitches. Again, marking our wraps. Bring the yarn to the front. Slide that stitch from the left needle to the right needle as if to purl. Take our yarn back. Return that stitch to the left hand needle and turn our work. Take the yarn back to the back of the work to get set up for knitting. Slide your marker, knit to the end. And as you can see, our knitting has changed in height from one end to the other. And again, you can see that's because we've knitted more on this end because we've stopped short every time we've made a wrap. And that is wrap and turn. Next up, we'll be picking up the wraps. Picking up the wraps. Now that we have our wrap stitches here, 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 and here, it's time to work back and pick up the wraps. So what we're going to do, knit up to our first marker, and we're going to drop the marker off. Now we're going to look for that shawl, which is right here. You see that? Right here. And we're going to put it up on our needle without twisting it. And mine's a little tight. And knit those two together. We're going to knit to our next marker to pick up the next wrap. We get there, drop the marker, look for the shawl, up on the needle, knit the two together. We're going to knit to the next marker, pick up our next wrap, drop our marker. You can see the shawl. Just straight up on the needle without twisting it. Knit them two together. Last one, knit to the marker. Pick up your shawl. Let's do that again slower. Through the front and just set it right up on your needle without twisting it. Then knit those two together. And I'll knit back so you can see what it looks like. Now we've added shape to our knitting. That's wrap and turns and picking up the wraps.